Hey folks, Aaron here from Bean Sprout. I just stumbled across a big box of vintage ukes and I bought the whole box. They came from another builder who doesn't want to work on these projects. Some of these things I'll fix up and sell, some I'll fix and give away, some I'll fix and keep, I don't know. But mainly I want the practice of working on these old instruments, and I need to learn some new repair techniques, so that's why we got the box. But I thought I would show them to you and talk about how to tell if the instrument is Hawaiian or mainland made. There's a few little guidelines and little rules. And yes, these things can be bent. Yes, there are exceptions. We'll see a few, but in general, it's what I'm looking for. So to begin with, the first instrument here is a Ukuleles, and that's a Hawaiian factory. And they put out a lot of instruments, you know, 1915 to 1925 or so. And they were a really successful business. And, you know, it's got this sticker with the Hawaiian coat of arms right there. So the number one way that I can tell instruments apart is by how the neck is connected to the body. This is called a Spanish heel. This block here and the neck are the same piece of wood. It's just got slots cut in the sides for the sides to fit in. Then you cover that joint with the back and then you put the top on. That's different than like a dovetailed or bolted on neck from the mainland. So typically the number one thing you'll see with a Hawaiian instrument is that the back covers the neck joint. Now there'll be exceptions to that rule, we'll see, but in general that's one of the things I look for. Also, this is koa wood, I can tell. Also, I've seen the Ukuleles headstock enough to know what this is. Another thing that we'll see fairly often with instruments from Hawaii around this time is they also have what's called a tabu stamp, T-A-B-U, and that's like a little mark that gets branded or stamped on the instrument somewhere, and that was by like the Hawaii Chamber of Commerce in order to label the instruments as actually being from Hawaii, because lots of mainland companies were making instruments and faking that they were from Hawaii. So none of these ones have that stamp yet that I see, but it's common to see those as well, although not every instrument has that. So this Ukuleles needs a full rebuild. It's a simple koa instrument without any binding or anything. I might tackle this one even though it's going to be a ton of work, just because I like these Ukuleles. So that's the first one. It's definitely from Hawaii. Next one is my second Ukuleles. It's a fancier model with lots more binding and stuff, and it has a similar headstock there. Definitely koa, definitely has a Spanish heel, and I recognize that it needs also a ton of work, but yeah, definitely Hawaiian made. Yes, okay, so this one has the Hawaii coat of arms sticker right there, but it doesn't have a brand name, it doesn't have a tabu stamp, and it doesn't have any writing inside. But it is koa, it does have a Spanish heel, and it's very, it's got the little rope rosette and everything. It looks like a ubiquitous Hawaiian-made factory instrument from around this time period. So I don't know who made it, but I definitely think it's from the islands. I might rebuild this one. Bit of a mystery who made that. Okay, let's do a couple of mainland ones that might fool you. So it looks kind of like koa. It's got the rope binding. It's got all these. It's got rope binding coming up here. But when you look at the back, look at the neck joint. It's like, yes, it's broken, but see that the neck is a separate item from the body. So when I repair it, I'll be able to get that off, fix the body, stick the neck back on. I do think this one is plain koa, but I think this is mainland made. And I recognize this headstock shape, and I believe this is made by the Oscar Schmidt company. Oscar Schmidt was from New Jersey or New York, I can't remember which. They made a ton of instruments around this time period, acoustic instruments especially. They're the ones who made Stella guitars, and they did advertise koa instruments at this time. And I recognize this headstock shape. So I believe that even though this looks like a Hawaiian instrument, mainland made. And we'll see, while we're at it, let's look at another Oscar Schmidt. Very similar, but it's a mahogany body, kind of curly mahogany. Very nice rope and everything. It's got a birch neck, which is a giveaway to me. Also, you can see that it doesn't have the piece coming over here. And yeah, this is a nice instrument though. I'm looking forward to fixing it up. Recognize that headstock, Oscar Schmidt, I believe. Okay, trying to go fast here. So, koa wood, no writing, no stamp, rope rosette. Very plain koa. Spanish heel. And one weird thing is that the neck seems to be made of 3 pieces of koa in a lamination, which I've never really seen. So I don't know who made this, but maybe it was a homemade thing or something made in a trade school or something. But I believe that's Hawaiian made. And this is the main reason I got the box. So we recognize this little headstock shape as very common in Hawaii, but also in the mainland. It's got the Spanish heel. It doesn't have a taboo stamp or anything, but it does have a label. Nunez. So this is not one of his handmade, just when he worked by himself instruments. I believe this is a factory-made instrument, but it's an early factory-made instrument. It's not as deep as the later ones. The label's not like the later ones. I think this is a Nunez instrument from when he was running a factory, but early. And it needs a ton of work, obviously. Got to repair part of this side, replace this. But I wanted to have one of these, so that's mainly why I got the box. So definitely Hawaiian made. Okay, so let's keep going. You recognize that. It's a Martin style O that somebody sat on or something. So I wanted to get this in order to practice staining the mahogany or coloring the mahogany to match. So I'll be doing a ton of work on this. And by the time I sell it, I won't make any money, but I want to learn how to do this. So got to rebuild the whole thing. Martin style O, probably let's see what, it's bar frets, so probably 1930s. Definitely mainland made. Okay, so this one, inside I can see the words Hawaiian ukulele and Hawaii, but then it says the Slingerland Correspondence School of Music. Little suspect. It looks like nice koa. It's got rope binding, but then look at the neck. It's just held on with a dowel, so it's not a Spanish heel. This is, again, I believe, a Oscar Schmidt made instrument with the fancier headstock. They made 2 kinds, one with the simpler headstock, one with this fancier one, and I have a catalog that shows these. So I believe that's what this is. But I might work on it because it looks like a nice little instrument. And then here's one with the matching headstock, and it's a similar neck shape. This one, though, says Fargo Music Company. Okay, so these are both examples where I believe the instrument is made by Oscar Schmidt, but it's relabeled for sale by somebody else. Super common at this time, but very similar instruments. I believe this is plain koa. One's a little fancier than the other. So even though they have 2 different labels, I think they're made by the same people. Now I've got a couple Chicago instruments. It says Slingerland. Sorry, Maybell. And Maybell was a brand name of the company that made Slingerland drums and banjos. They also made Maybell banjos, tons of banjo ukes under this name. That's a Chicago company. The body shape and the fact that it's all birch and the headstock shape tells me this is probably made by Regal or Tonk Brothers for Slingerland / Maybell. It's all birch, simple instrument. I might not fix this one up. But there are a couple more nice Chicago-made instruments. Here's a Harmony Royce Mech. It's labeled as a concert, but it's a small concert uke. But these are really nice mahogany instruments. And if you look inside, do you see that little round thing? That's the dowel that's trying to hold the neck on. Not doing very well. But I'm gonna fix this one up to sell. I really like these Royce Mechs. It's nice mahogany. And I might even try to kind of really touch up this finish and make it look nicer, because it's obviously seen better days. But yeah, that's a Chicago instrument. And then now this says Silvertone. That's a Sears and Roebuck brand name. That would have been made in Chicago as well, probably by Harmony. And it's got this little flame mahogany, which I see on a lot of the nicer Chicago-made instruments for sure. And it's got like a Brazilian rosewood fretboard, which I see on the Harmonies. So I think this is like kind of a later instrument, and probably 1950s. But these are worth fixing up. It's solid mahogany, and they're pretty good. I'm not a real big fan of the way the necks feel, but they're pretty good. Oh, and there's one more instrument I gotta go get. Hold on. Okay, sorry I didn't have this one with me. It was in the other room. This is more of this kind of curly, flamey mahogany, and it's really common on the higher end Chicago instruments. And I recognize this headstock from Tonk Brothers Regal J.R. Stewart instruments. I know it's confusing. It's because all these companies made instruments that got labeled all these other things, and there's like conglomerates of different brand names that all went together. So I recognize this headstock as a Regal Tonk Brothers Stewart type headstock. I recognize the curly mahogany from Chicago, and so I think this is probably made by Regal. The reason I'm working on it right now is because I love the vintage Hawaiian travel sticker on the back. It's just beautiful. So I think I'm gonna fix this one up for a raffle at the music camp we're working at next week. And it's this nice curly mahogany, I really like it. I'll probably put fancier tuners on it and string it up and get it going. It's a nice little instrument. So we've got 5 Hawaii, 4 New York/New Jersey, 1 Pennsylvania, 4 Chicago. And but most are worth putting some work into, even if it's just for my own repair education. Some of these can still make some music. So cheers.